Good morning and welcome to Get Licensed to Build. This is a free online workshop for those who want to get their California Contractors license. Our goal this morning is to go through all the parts of the license application and give you practical tips to help you complete it correctly, and to give you every opportunity to demonstrate your experience and qualifications to get your California Contractors license. We will also help get you ready for your licensing exams and give you a link to a video that shows you exactly what to expect on your test day. Today's webcast is presented by the Contractor State License Board, the government agency responsible for regulating the contractors' construction industry. I'm Fuat Garigozlu, licensing supervisor at CSLB. Joining us is Ronald James from CSLB Licensing Verification Unit. Good morning, Ron.
Good morning. CSLB is overseen by a 15-member board that directs administrative policy for our operations. Our board is made up of 10 public members, including 1 labor representative, 1 local building official, and 1 representative of a statewide senior citizens organization, and 5 contractors. Appointments are made by the governor and the state legislature.
Please note, CSLB test centers are open. Applicants will have to wear masks on test day before arriving for your test. Check and follow your local COVID-19 mask guidelines. If you are watching right now on either YouTube Live or Facebook Live and want to ask questions, you will need to join us on WebEx. There is a banner with the link on the top of our homepage, www.cslb.ca.gov. That is also where you can download this presentation to follow along. The presentation file includes clickable bonus links that appear on slides throughout this workshop. We are going to present a lot of information today, so don't worry if you don't get it all. We will archive the video of this workshop and put it on our YouTube channel, so you can go back and watch it again. To ask a question on WebEx, use the Q&A feature, not the chat feature, on the bottom right of your screen. Make sure you send your questions to all panelists. Finally, we tend to get a lot of questions during these workshops on how you document your work experience and what credit you can get for your education or military service. Those questions are fine, but we would ask that you wait to send us those questions until after you see that part of the workshop. We will go through your questions at the end of our presentation, which should last about 45 minutes.
The information obtained during this webcast is not, nor is it intended to be legal advice. While this webcast contains general information, including legal guidelines for contractor license applications, it does not contain definitive statements of the law and may not reflect the most current legal developments in the construction industry. Such guidelines communicated or discussed during the webcast are for informational purposes only. If you have questions about the application of the law for specific situations, you should contact an attorney who is familiar with California construction law or review the 2022 edition of the CSLB publication, California Contractors Licensing Law and Reference Book. You can download it for free on the CSLB website or purchase it directly from the publisher, LexisNexis. There are links for both at the bottom of the screen.
Here is a list of what we are going to cover today. We will take you through the process for applying for your California Contractor's license. First, who needs a license? Why get a contractor's license? The minimum qualifications you will need to get a license and what credits you might qualify for. The types of business entities. The different CSLB license classifications, including our new B2 residential remodeling classification. We will spend a lot of time giving you tips on how to help fill out your applications, including how to demonstrate your work experience to meet the minimum qualification. Fingertip requirements for a criminal background check, We will help get you ready for the exam or exams you will need to pass in order to get your license. And finally, the other things you will need to have in place before your license is issued, things like a bond and insurance.
First, we'll take a look at who needs a license. Here in California, a state contractor's license is needed for all construction projects priced at $500 or more. That total includes both labor and materials. The law doesn't let you break down a project into $499 pieces. It's the entire project. Also, you can't charge an hourly rate to get around the $500 threshold. If the hourly cost times the number of hours for the job totals $500 or more, you need a contractor's license. So what is the definition of a contractor? The definition comes from the state's Business and Professional Code. In this case, it's section 7026.1. We've got a link to that code at the top of the page if you download the presentation. If you read the entire code, I'll read the entire code, but pay special attention to the part we underlined. A contractor is any person, consultant to an owner building, firm, association, organization, partnership, business trust, corporation, or company who or which undertakes, offers to undertake, purports to have the capacity to undertake, or submits a bid to construct any building or home improvement project or part thereof. In other words, you don't have to do the work to break the law. You must have a contractor's license just to advertise that you can do the construction work, or even to give a bid for a construction job if the bid totals $500 or more.
So you may be asking yourself, why should I get a license? Here are a few good reasons. First, you can take pride in being a licensed professional. It shows you have taken the steps to get licensed and you're serious about your career choice. It allows you to make valuable contributions to your local community. Unlicensed contractors must operate in the shadows and cannot help make their community a better place to live. Next, it allows you to get paid for the work you do. There is value to the work done by a licensed professional. Being licensed also gives you legal options if customers don't pay you. Unlicensed contractors do not have a legal right to take someone to court to get paid because the work required a license and they weren't licensed to do the work in the first place. Also, you would be able to use the mechanics liens law. Next, you don't have to look over your shoulder with fear of getting caught. Contracting without a valid California license can lead to misdemeanor charges. Those caught face a first offense sentence of up to 6 months in jail and or $5,000 fine, and potential administrative fines anywhere between $200 to $15,000. Subsequent violations can result in increased criminal penalties and fines. In addition, you may face felony charges if you contract without a license when one is required in a state or federally declared disaster area, or you've tried to pass yourself off as a licensed contractor by illegally using a license number. Remember, there are no educational requirements to get a license. Also, you do not have to go to a license preparation school to get your contractor's license.
So what do you need to get your license? First, it is important to understand that CSLB does not license individuals. We license companies or businesses, also called entities. Many entities are one-person operations, but know that every entity, even a one-person operation, must have a qualifier. That's someone who has the minimum experience and is responsible for the operations of the company. Here is the short list of minimum qualifications you will need. You must be at least 18 years old. You must have either a valid Social Security number or valid Individual Taxpayer Identification Number or ITIN. You can qualify the license in one of two ways. First, You can qualify the license by having at least 4 years experience within the last 10 years as a journey person, foreperson, supervising employee, or contractor in the trade being applied for. Or you can also get a qualifier for the license who has that required experience. We will spend a lot of time talking about how you can demonstrate your experience on your application in a few minutes.
It may be possible for you to substitute your education, technical training, and apprenticeship training for some of the required experience. We tend to get a lot of questions on this. First, CSLB cannot prejudge your experience. Due to the number of applications we receive and process every month, we don't have the staff time that would be needed to prejudge your experience. We can only review your documents after you apply for your license. Next, to get education credit, the coursework must be directly related to the work you will be doing as a contractor. Your education cannot be substituted for more than 3 years or 36 months of the required experience, meaning you will need at least 1 year of practical experience if you get the full 36 months of education credit. To apply for education credit, you must provide CSLB with written documentation. That means a copy of any apprenticeship completion certificates you earned, or get official technical school or college transcripts. Have your transcripts mailed to you. Do not open the envelope. Leave it sealed and included with your CSLB applications packet. Note that high school courses will not earn you any credit towards your contractor license.
If you're looking to get education credits to meet the 4 years or 48 months of experience, you'll need to get your transcripts first. This is the most important slide of this entire workshop. This is the kind of credit you can expect to receive for your education. Note that some areas we are only giving you averages. You will see that your credit will be determined on a case-by-case basis. We're not going to be able to give you any more guidance than what you see on this slide. So our best advice is do not rely on the combination of your experience and education credits to barely hit the 4-year experience mark. There is always the real possibility you will not get as much education credit as you were hoping. Let's go through the chart from the most credit you can get to the least. The most education credit you can get is for a Bachelor of Science degree in construction management. That degree will get you the full 36 months of credit. Next is a master's or bachelor's degree in business or a law degree. Any one of those will get you 24 months of credit. An associate in science degree in construction management will get you 18 months of credit. A bachelor's degree in some other major will get you an average of 18 months credit. An associate's degree in a major besides construction management will get you an average of 6 months credit. Credit for individual college classes are given on a case-by-case basis, usually with a maximum of 6 months credit. Apprenticeship completion certificates will get you 24 to 36 months, depending on the classification of the program. For example, a sheet metal worker apprenticeship gets you 24 months credit for the C20 HVAC and C43 sheet metal classifications only. A lineman apprenticeship gets you 36 months in C7 low voltage and C10 electrical classifications only. If you have transcripts for other technical training you've taken, you might be able to get some minimal credits as well. Again, don't use your education credits to try and squeak by the 4 years or 48 months requirement.
If you served in the military, some of that service might count as well. On the bottom of the page, you will see a bonus link to our CSLB Military Application Assistant Program where you can learn more. The license qualifier also must pass 2 different exams, both taken on a computer at one of CSLB test centers. One exam is on California business law. The other is in the specific trade covered by the license. We also have limited specialty licenses, which we will discuss later. Those licenses only require the qualifier to take the law and business exam. As we mentioned, the qualifier is the one who must take and pass the required exams or qualify for a waiver. We are not going to spend a lot of time on the waiver, only to note that you might be able to request a waiver from taking one or both exams in very specific situations. We recommend that you look at the CSLB website for more information on those specific situations. We have included a bonus link at the bottom of the page. The qualifier must also undergo the criminal background check. We will go more in depth on that in a few minutes. After the license is issued, the qualifier must be in a position to exercise direct supervision and control of the company's operations. They're also responsible for all workmanship issues. It is also important to note here that if you are trying to get the B, General Building Contractor license, and you hire subcontractors to work under you, you are responsible as the project's prime contractor for the work that they do.
The next thing you're going to need to determine before applying for your license is which type of entity your business will be. There are 4 types. First is a sole ownership, where the owner of the owner or responsible managing employee may serve as a license qualifier. Just about 2/3 of the contracting businesses in California are sole ownership. Second, a corporation, where either of the current officers designated as the responsible managing officer or the responsible managing employee may serve as the qualifier. Just under 1/3 of our licenses are corporations. A distant third is a partnership, where either the general partners or the responsible managing employee may serve as a qualifier. That's 2% of our licenses. And finally, a limited liability company, or LLC, where a responsible managing member, a responsible managing manager, a responsible managing officer, or a responsible managing employee may serve as the qualifier. About 1.5% of California construction companies are LLCs.
Now let's talk about license classifications. A contractor's license can include multiple classifications, although you must select one when filling out your application. While there are more than 40 license classifications in California, they all fall under 3 distinct categories. There is a bonus link to our classification list at the bottom of the screen. First is Class A, or General Engineering Contractors. These are contractors who deal with fixed work that require a specialized engineering knowledge and skill. A contractors are the one who build projects such as freeways, skyscrapers, and dams. Today, there are over 19,000 A contractors in the state. Next is Class B, or General Building Contractors. This is the largest class of contractors in California with more than 133,000. Class B contractors have a principal business dealing with any structure built, being built, or to be built that requires as part of its construction at least 2 unrelated building trades or crafts. In other words, a Class B contractor shouldn't take a prime contract for any project involving trades other than framing or carpentry, unless the prime contract requires at least 2 unrelated building trades other than framing or carpentry. There is no limitation on Class B contractors to stop them from taking on projects that only include framing or carpentry. The final class is C, or specialty contractors. These licenses are for construction work that require a special skill and whose principal contracting business involves the use of specialized building trades or crafts. For example, this class includes C10, electrical contractors, C20, HVAC contractors, C27, landscape contractors, C36, plumbing contractors, C39, roofing contractors, C46, solar contractors, and C53, swimming pool contractors, just to name a few. There are also 30 limited specialty classes under the C61 classification. These include the C61 D34 prefabricated equipment class. More than 209,000 contractors hold a C license in California.
CSLB's newest licensing classification is called the B2 Residential Remodeling Classification. The B2 allows contractors who don't have structural framing experience to get a license with the CSLB. Here's what interested applicants need to know. A B2 license holder must engage in 3 or more trades or crafts on a project. The B2 licenses also are limited to working on existing residential wood frame structures. There are some things B2 license holders cannot do. They cannot make structural alterations to load-bearing partitions and walls, and they cannot install or extend electrical or plumbing systems. They can make modifications to existing systems, for example, install recessed lighting or alter plumbing for 2 shower heads. B2 licenses also cannot install or replace an HVAC system. Like all other CSLB licenses, B2 applicant licensees must comply with CSLB experience, examination, license bond, and workers' compensation insurance requirements. If you have more questions about the B2 license, email the licensing division at licensing@cslb.ca.gov.
When you are ready to apply for a license, here are the 2 forms you will need. On the left is the license application. On the right is the certification of work experience. You can get these forms on the CSLB website. There is a bonus link on the left side of the page, so be sure to download this presentation. We will give you a closer look at the different sections of these forms a little later.
Okay, now let's break down the steps of the application process. First, identify who will be the qualifier for your license. That person will be responsible for exercising direct supervision and control of the company. If you're using an RME, or responsible managing employee, as your qualifier, determine if he or she can qualify for an exam waiver. Be aware of companies you pay to connect you with a licensed qualifier. In some cases, these qualifiers are in different parts of the state and cannot exercise the direct supervision needed, or they aren't willing or don't understand their role as a qualifier. Next, make sure you complete the correct application. There are 2 options: application for original contractor's license and application for original contractor's license examination waiver 7065. We've got links to both at the bottom of the page.
The next step is to determine your company name. Take a look at the application, for example. Some things you keep in mind. Your name cannot be misleading or imply that you qualify for a license classification other than what you are getting. For example, if you're going to apply for a C36 plumbing license, you cannot have company of John Smith Plumbing, Construction, Heating, and Drywall. Corporate and LLC names must match exactly the name registered with the California Secretary of State's office. The names of everyone on your Secretary of State Statement of Information must be listed on your CSLB application. You can also use what is called a DBA, which stands for Doing Business As. The main things to remember here is the DBA name cannot be misleading, and you must use that name in all advertising and all your contracts. Next, you will want to get together certifications to support your work experience. You should do this even if you apply for an exam waiver. Feel free to use multiple pages if necessary. Next, be sure to note if you are a military veteran, some of your military service may be used to meet your 4 years of experience qualifications. Also, your application may be expedited through our Military Application Assistance Program. We mentioned that a few minutes ago. There is a bonus link at the bottom of the screen for more information on that program. To participate, you must have had an honorable discharge. Be sure to include a copy of your military DD-214 paperwork showing your honorable discharge with your application. The next couple of items are basic but important. Proofread your application for any missing information. Make sure you have provided an answer to all necessary fields. Second, don't forget to sign and date the application. Finally, determine if you need a special accommodation to take your exams. If so, complete the request form and submit it with your application. We will talk about the use of translators a little later.
Next, let's take a look at our fingerprint requirements, which are used for a criminal background check. This is a list of those who must submit a full set of fingerprints to CSLB, depending on the type of business entity. All applicants, each corporate officer, each partner, each owner, the responsible managing employee, and all home improvement salespersons. If you are in California, you must submit fingerprints electronically with what's called live scan. You can get an updated list of live scan locations in California, broken down by county, on the Attorney General's website. We have a link here, or you can simply go to the Attorney General's website and search for live scan. You will also see we have a bonus link at the bottom of the screens to the fingerprint information page on our CSLB website. If you're out of state, it's going to be tough for you to get us your fingerprints. That's because you must submit hard copies of them, the old-fashioned way. These take anywhere from between 3 to 6 months for the FBI and Department of Justice to process. So you might want to consider traveling to California to get your electronic live scan done here.
So what happens if you have any criminal convictions? CSLB may deny your license for the following reasons. First, if your convictions is substantially related to the duties, functions, and qualifications of a contractor. Also, if your conviction involves fraud or a violent crime. There are other factors CSLB also considers. They are the nature and severity of the crimes, the amount of time that has passed since the convictions, and any evidence of rehabilitation that you submit to CSLB. CSLB evaluates felony criminal convictions which occurred within 7 years of the application date. So, for applications filed this year, we would look back to 2014. For misdemeanors, criminal convictions, we would look back for 3 years of the application date to 2018. That's unless the convictions are for a violent felony, certain sexual crimes, or financial crimes related to construction. CSLB denies only 1% of the total applications we get based on criminal convictions. You will also note the bonus link to our fingerprint information page.
Okay, Along with education credits we talked about earlier, this section is probably the most important of the entire workshop, and the part of the application that causes the most headaches for applicants. It is how you demonstrate your work experience on your application. Remember, the license qualifier needs 4 years or 48 months of experience within the past 10 years in the classification for which you're applying. That means at least 4 years of experience since 2011. The experience must be at no less than a journeyman level or as a foreman, supervising employee, contractor, or owner builder. A journeyman is defined as an experienced worker who is fully qualified as opposed to a trainee and can perform trade without supervision, or one who has completed an apprenticeship program.
There is a limited amount of space on the application to show your certified work experience. So feel free to use additional pages if needed and simply attach them at the end of the work experience form. Use as many certifications of work experience forms as you need to prove the required 4 years of experience within the last 10 years. Use a different form for each certifier. Be as accurate as possible. Make sure the person certifying your work describes the actual work you performed and the dates in which you performed them. We will now share some examples of both good and unacceptable descriptions to demonstrate work experience. Do not copy and paste this information directly into your application. These are just examples.
At the top of this chart is the classification and type of experience you're trying to demonstrate. This first example is journey person experience. The overall theme we'll keep repeating is the more specific the description, the better. Note, the work experience form should be completed by your certifier, someone who has knowledge and has observed your work experience for the classification you're applying for. That person does not have to be a licensed contractor.
Our first example is for the Class B general building contractor. The best type of description your certifier would use for journey person experience is to be specific. Journey person experience must include hands-on work like this. Bob performed rough and finish carpentry, concrete forming and pours, rough-out plumbing and electrical, interior-exterior painting, and flooring on residential homes. An unacceptable description would be something generic like residential general building trades. For foreperson experience, the description must include some hands-on work and/or supervisory work. Here is an example of the best type of description. Bob oversaw other staff at job site performing rough and finish carpentry, concrete forming and pours, rough-out plumbing and electrical, interior-exterior painting and flooring on residential homes. Again, an unacceptable description would be something generic like residential generic building trades. For supervising employee experience, the description should include an explanation of how you arrived at the supervisor level. An example is, as a construction lead on multiple projects, Bob supervised rough and finish carpentry, concrete forming and pours, rough-out plumbing and electrical, interior-exterior painting and flooring on residential homes. Again, unacceptable would be something like residential general building trades. For out-of-state contractor experience, the description must include examples of work done that were out of a state, military, on federal lands, or work for a government entity. Applicants can qualify as a journey person, foreperson, or supervising employee. A tip: be specific about your duties and employment circumstances.
Our next example is for the C27 landscaping contractor. First, for experience at the journeyman level. The best type of description your certifier would use would be: Jane performed landscape construction, maintenance, and installation of sprinklers, ground plants, low voltage lighting, ornamental yard art, concrete mow strips and pathways, and tree pruning. An unacceptable explanation would be gardening, yard maintenance, planting. For a C27 landscaping contractor, the best work experience description for a four-person would be something like: Jane oversaw other staff at job site performing landscape construction, maintenance and installation of sprinklers, ground plants, low voltage lighting, ornamental yard art, concrete mow strips and pathways, and tree pruning. An unacceptable description, again, would be something like gardening, yard maintenance, planting. For a C27 supervising employee, the description should include an explanation of how you arrived at the supervisor level. The best description would be: as a construction lead on multiple projects, applicant supervised landscape construction, maintenance and installation of sprinklers, ground plants, low voltage lighting, ornamental yard art, concrete mow strips and pathways, and tree pruning. Unacceptable here for the supervising employee would also be something like gardening, yard maintenance, planting. Finally, for out-of-state contractors, the same guidelines that we showed you for general building contractors is required. Be sure to include examples of your out-of-state work, as well as work for the military or on federal lands or for a government entity. Be sure to be specific when you describe your duties and employment circumstances.
By law, CSLB must randomly review and verify all the information provided on at least 3% of our applications. Our next 3 slides run down the acceptable documentation you can use to support your work experience. In the event that your application was selected and you were asked to provide additional documentation, the supporting documentation should not be mailed in with your application. You will only need to provide this information if requested by CSLB staff. On the lower right of the screen, you will see a link to this publication on our website, along with additional information on experience documentation. If you look at the chart, you can see the first column is for documents you can use if you were employed by a licensed contractor. The second column is for documenting your experience if you have been self-employed. The third column is for documentation you will need if you're applying for a Class B general building contractor license and need to use owner-builder experience to meet the experience requirements. Here is the next page of acceptable documentation. Again, you can click on the link to view and print this publication. If you do not have this information readily available, you may want to begin to gather it now, just in case you're asked to provide it in the future. Remember, you're trying to demonstrate your 4 years of experience within the last 10 years. CSLB staff may contact the certifier experience or other parties to verify experience.
One other note: CSLB gets over 1,000 applications each month to our application processing staff, so our application processing staff has seen it all. We've got 2 pieces of advice. First, don't cut and paste from this presentation. Also, don't try to get around having to take a trade exam by applying for multiple subcategories under the C61 limited specialty classifications. Okay, that is the content you'll need to fill out your application. Before getting it to CSLB, double check it to make sure you did not miss anything. Be sure to sign and date it as well. And don't forget to include the all-important $450 application fee. You'll pay the initial license fee of $200 for a sole owner license, or $350 for a non-sole owner license after you pass your exam or exams. Then put your application packet in the mail to CSLB or hand delivered to one of our public counters. We've got a bonus link at the bottom of the screen with our office locations.
So now we're going to look at parts of the application. Section 1, business name and address. Section 1 is where you list your business name. Remember, when selecting a business name, make sure the name that you have selected is compatible with the classification and the entity that you're applying for, and is not misleading. If your business is a corporation or LLC, you will need to make sure that the name you provide in this section matches exactly the business name registered with the Secretary of State. In line 2, you will indicate what classification you are applying for. The mailing address and phone number that you list on line 3A and 3C will be made public on CSLB website once you are licensed. Parts of the application, section 2, business entity. In section 2, you will select your business entity. And if you're applying for a corporation or LLC, you will need to provide your registration number provided to you by Secretary of State. Make sure to pay extra attention to the instruction in this section pertaining to the entity for which you're applying for.
Section 3, the qualifying individual full legal name and address. In Section 3, you will list the qualifier's information. Remember, the qualifier is the person who meets the experience requirements and will be responsible for the direct supervision and control of construction operations. The qualifier will be the person taking the exams. On line 6, you will list any previous or current license number you've held. You will also need to list the percentage of the new business owned by the qualifier. For example, if you are the only person that will be listed on the license, you would enter 100%. On line 7, you will need to indicate what position will be held by the qualifier. Each entity has different personnel requirements. You will need to make sure that you have listed all positions depending on the entity that you have selected. You can find more information on this on page 2 through 4 of the application instructions. Line 8 is where you will sign and date your application. Section 4, personnel full legal names and addresses. Section 4 is where you will list the personal information for all remaining personnel that will be listed on the license. For example, if you're applying for a corporation, you will need to indicate who will be the responsible managing officer or employee, the president, the secretary, and treasurer. Again, more information can be found on page 4 of the application instructions. If you will have more than 4 people on your license, you can make additional copies of this page and include it with your application. For corporations and LLCs, you will want to make sure that all personnel that are listed with the Secretary of State are listed in this section. All personnel that will be listed on the license must sign the application in Section 4.
Section 5 is a series of yes and no questions, so we are not going to cover those here. Section 6, qualifier education, apprenticeship, licensure, and military. You may be granted credit toward the 4-year experience requirement based on your education. Question 17 asks if you have completed an educational or apprenticeship program. You will need to submit official sealed transcripts if you would like to be considered for this credit. If you attend formal training or an apprenticeship program, you will need to provide a certificate of completion. Get those sealed transcripts mailed to you, then include the sealed transcripts with your application packet. Do not have the program send transcripts directly to CSLB. You don't want to take a chance that we are not able to match them up with your application. CSLB may grant you up to 3 years of credit based on your education. This credit is not on a 1 year to year basis, meaning if you have a 2-year college degree, you won't necessarily be granted 2 years of credit towards the experience requirements. You may qualify for this credit regardless of when you completed your education. The 10-year time frame does not apply to education. You may also apply for this credit even if your education was received out of the country. If your degree is in another language other than English, it must be translated and evaluated by an accredited evaluation service that does business within the United States. Certification of work experience, Part 1. Now we will discuss the certification of work experience. Part 1 will be filled out by you, the applicant. Here you will list the information about your employer where you gained your experience. If you were self-employed when you gained the experience, please make sure to check the box in line 2. If you are applying for B, general construction license, and will be using experience obtained while working on your own property, make sure to mark the box in line 4 and complete an owner builder construction project experience form that we will discuss later. Certification of work experience, Part 2. Part 2 will be filled out by the certifier. In this section, the certifier must include the dates in which you obtained the experience. They must also select if you were working on a part-time or full-time basis. Keep in mind, if you were working part-time, you will receive 50% credit for that time, which means you will need to provide 8 years of experience within the last 10 years to meet the 4-year requirement. On line 6, your certifier will need to list the duties that you perform or supervise that are considered critical for the classification that you're applying for. You can read a description of critical duties in CSLB's description of classifications booklet available on our website. Do not copy and paste the description from the booklet. This is only to give you an idea of what CSLB considers critical duties for each classification. Your certifier should complete this section in their own words and be as complete and accurate as possible. Final part of certification of work experience. This part is also to be completed by your certifier. They need to list their relationship to you and provide their contact information. Lastly, they will need to sign and date the certification.
Owner builder B, general building construction project experience, Part 1. The next form we will discuss is the owner builder general building construction project experience form. This form only needs to be completed if you're applying for a B, general construction license, and you want to receive experience credit for work on projects on your own property. A separate form is required for each project on this property. The experience must be verifiable through building permits, final inspections, and other documentation. You will need to list the building permit number on line 6. On line 7, you will need to provide the scope of the project. In boxes 8 through 10, you will need to provide more detailed information about the project. Question 11 asks if other general
I will take over. Question 11 asks if other general construction contractors work on the project and what trades they perform. With all the information we just covered, this is a good time to remind you that we are recording this workshop. We will post a video on our YouTube channel so you can go back and rewatch it in case there is anything you missed. Okay, so you have got your application submitted. How do you check the status of that application? Here are two resources. First is the secure check. You will need your application fee number and contractor's PIN number to get an update. We will send you that information after we receive, cashier, and key into the system your completed application. The second way to check is to look online at our processing times. Each week, we update our website with the date we received the paperwork for a specific process. So look for the date being worked on and know that if the date shown is after the date we likely received your paperwork, is likely we are busy working on your application. As you can imagine, CSLB receives hundreds, if not thousands of documents every day, and we process them in the order they have received. So be sure to take the extra time getting the application right so we don't have to send it back to you to correct and then have to start processing your application again. When your application has been posted, CSLB will send you a notice to appear for examination and a study guide. You should get your exam notice at least 3 weeks prior to your exam day. CSLB has 7 test centers throughout California and encourages candidates to take their exams at the nearest test center. If you're an applicant whose first language isn't English and you don't feel confident taking your exam in English, we do allow you to use a translator. The translator who you provide simply reads you the exam questions. Question 16 on the application asks if you need to use a translator to complete the examination. The translator must be approved by CSLB in advance. You cannot just show up on the day of your examination to the test center with someone to translate the exam for you. When you get an exam date, make sure you do not miss it. If you fail to appear for your exam, you will have to pay a non-refundable $100 fee to reschedule. That fee may be waived once. That fee may be waived once with documented evidence of a medical emergency or other circumstances beyond your control. Also, we have study guides available for each of our exams. Included in each study guide, you will find a list of sections and topics covered by the exam. They also include sample questions, how each section of the exam is weighted, and recommended resources that you can use to prepare for examination. These study guides are available online on our website. There is a bonus link to them on the bottom of the screen. Here is a quick look at 2 of those study exams. The first is the Law and Business exam, which all qualifiers must take, no matter which license classification, including the D-Series limited classes. You can see the guide contains a breakdown of examination topics, some test strategies, sample questions, and resources that were used to help create that exam. You will see the same format on the B General Building Study Guide. We would recommend that you really pay attention to the exam content here, especially how we have broken down what percentage of questions there will be on each of the 5 topics on the exam. On the lower right of both of these 2 slides, you will see bonus link to the actual study guide, as well as a link to the complete list of study guides. Again, our test centers are open. We do have COVID-19 procedures in place for applicants on test day. Here they are. Plan to arrive at least 15 minutes early for your exam. Give yourself extra time to get checked in. Applicants must wear a face mask or other face covering. Check and follow your local COVID-19 mask guidance before arriving for your test. If you appear ill, you will have to reschedule your exam for at least 5 days later at no additional charge. And you will not be admitted into the test center more than 15 minutes prior to your exam time. We have also produced a short What to Expect on Test Day video that you can watch on our YouTube channel. The link is at the bottom of your screen. You will take your exam on a touchscreen computer. Before starting, you will see an on-screen tutorial that will take you through the process. The exam itself consists of multiple choice questions. You will also see a space on each question where you can, if you want, submit a comment about the question. You will get 3.5 hours to complete each exam. Don't arrive late, or that may reduce the amount of time you get to complete your exam. You will get your results at the end of the exam. If you don't pass the exam, you will not be allowed to review the questions you missed, but you will get a statement showing how you did on each section of the exam. You can reschedule the exam as many times as you need to within the 18-month period, as long as you pay the non-refundable $100 rescheduling fee each time. After you pass your exam, what happens next? First, you will need to pay your initial licensing fee, which is now $200 for a sole owner license and $350 for non-sole owner license. That will be good for 2 years. You will also need to complete an online asbestos open book exam. Plus, you will need to file your required $15,000 contractor surety bond and possibly some other bonds depending on what type of business entity you will have. And you will need to get your required insurance policy. If you have got employees, you will need to get workers' compensation insurance. If you are going to be an LLC, you will also need liability insurance. See our website for more information. Please note that your insurance company or broker can submit your insurance information to CSLB directly on our website. If you don't have employees, you must file a worker compensation exemption form with CSLB. You can do that online as well. In about 5 to 10 business days, CSLB will send you a wall certificate and plastic pocket license card. Display the wall certificate in your main office or chief place of your business. Carry your pocket card with you, especially in situations where you're going to solicit business, talk to potential customers, or sign contracts. You will need that. We encourage consumers to ask to see your pocket license. If you are going to have salespeople working for you, be sure to get them registered as a home improvement salesperson with CSLB. Check our website for more on how to do that. Your license will be good for 2 years. It will expire on the last day of the month when it was issued. For example, a license issued February 4, 2022 will expire on February 29, 2024. Be sure to put that expiration date on your calendar, in your phone, anywhere you need so you won't forget it. CSLB will send you a renewal notice in the mail approximately 60 days before it expires, but ultimately it is your responsibility to renew your license on time. Here are a couple of other important deadlines to keep in mind. First, notify CSLB within 30 days if you move or change your business address. Your renewal notice will be sent to the address of record that we have got on file. If you're not at that address anymore, you're probably not going to get it. The Postal Service will not forward the state government mail. Finally, notify CSLB within 30 days of all changes to personnel on your license, especially when it involves the qualifier of the license. Once you get your license and get to work, you might want to hire someone as a salesperson to solicit, sell, negotiate home improvement contracts on your behalf outside of your place of business. These people are called home improvement salesperson, or HIS. Without an HIS, the official personnel of record on a license are the only ones who can solicit, sell, negotiate, or execute a contract. That includes individual contractors, license qualifiers, partners, corporation officers, and LLC responsible managing officers, members, managers, or employees. A HIS can work for more than one contractor. The licensee must notify CSLB in writing when they either associate or disassociate a home improvement salesperson with their license. There are a couple of exceptions to note. First, are those who only schedule appointments for the contractors or registered home improvement salesperson and bona fide service and repair people. These are the folks you call out for repairs, including for things like air conditioning, heating, plumbing. But those service and repair people are limited to the work that was initially requested by the buyer or homeowner. For example, if your AC goes out and you call the HVAC company to come out, the service person does not have to be a registered salesperson. But if they go beyond the repair itself and sell you a new HVAC system, they would have to be a registered home improvement salesperson. Also, don't employ an unregistered salesperson. That subjects you to administrative discipline, and the salesperson might get a citation or possibly even a criminal misdemeanor. We have got bonus link at the bottom of this page if you want to look at the actual code section of the law. Okay, that's our presentation. Now it's time to answer some of your questions. All right. Can I take the law exam first, then take the trade exam 3 months later? So once we refer you to the testing, you will be scheduled for both exams, law and trade. Of course, if you have C, B, or A classes. Now, when you can go to the test site and take only one of those, okay? The thing is you have 18 months to pass both of these exams. Each time you pay, we will schedule you for both unless you have already passed one. So yes, although you will be scheduled for both, you can only do your law exam and then wait until you're ready for your trade exam. But since you're, my suggestion would be, since you are already scheduled and you will be scheduled, at least take your trade so you have an idea, what's coming. Just a suggestion. If you work while you're earning your associate degree in construction management, can you count the work experience and the degree 18 months? No, we do that when you have your degree. So that means you have completed all the courses required by that degree. Then we'll give you that. Otherwise, we'll just look at it as, the courses. And like we said before, if there is no degrees, you most likely just get about 6 months. And that depends on the courses you have already passed. Are we able to download this webinar once it is done? Yes, there are information. You can go to our website, www.cslb.ca.gov, and you can download it from there. Does work experience need to be paid? I believe you're talking about like voluntary work. So this is where that gets tricky. One, there wouldn't be, if you're picked for the, experience verification, you wouldn't have any document to prove your experience. Two, when you do the volunteer work, should be already journeyman. So the question would be where you gained that journeyman experience, because you're doing the volunteer work and you are a journeyman, you're just doing the labor work. So those are the questions you have to ask yourself. What is the minimum experience for a general contractor B2? All the classifications require 4 years of experience. And we checked on the, what the requirements are for B2 earlier in there. And if you download the presentation, you will see all of those. And also you can go to our website, and we have a comprehensive explanation of the experience needed from the B2. In this license, is license fee still $200 or the $450 that says the application? Okay, as we mentioned here, for the sole ownership applications is still $200. For every other, partnership, the LLC, corporations, limited, partnerships, all of those are $350 now. The $450 is application fee. So application fee is $450. That's what we need to start processing your application. And when we come to the issuance, that's when we would need whether $200 or $350 for the issuance part. For owner builder work experience, does the owner need to be at the journeyman level? Yes. Or can he or she demonstrate acceptable experience in another way to begin chipping away at this work? For example, through taking education courses and obtaining a certificate in construction management from highly recognized university. We explained what would education get for you. So you will still need, at least 1 year of journey level experience. So if you don't have any journey level experience as owner builder, which owner builder is only for B, class B, then you probably would not qualify. And when you talk about general B building, that means like framing and 2 unrelated trades. So if you're not journeyman in any of those, unfortunately, you are not qualified. It says single classification, but what does that mean? Well, for example, our waiver application is a $450 is the initial one. So if you are, for example, getting the a license with 2-3 different classification, which again, you cannot do that on an exam application. That only happens on the waiver application. Then you would need to pay additional fee for each one of those extra classifications. So that $450 covers one classification, but if you have multiple classification, you need to pay more for each one of those. Is there a way to figure out before applying how much your education will count for? Unfortunately, we cannot evaluate your work. So submit that based on the guide that we have given you here. You could have a very good idea how much it will get you. And like we said, if you are really, need that, 6 months or whatever, I recommend you just wait until you're sure before you apply. You don't want to squeak it by, you don't want to think, okay, you get 2 years and then we give you 18 months and then you're short that time. So just make sure you have extra on that before you apply. Hello, if I'm going for a B2 license, what should my work experience look like? Like I said, we went through those, we explained those. You need to show 3 unrelated trades that you worked, no framing. And the work has to be on the residential wood frame houses. I refer you again to our website for all the explanations and description of required experience for B2. What can I study for both the law and trade testing? As we said, we will send you the study guide, or you can actually go to our website and find those study guide now. And on those study guides, not only we tell you which, the parts that the question will be, the topics, I also give you resources, good resources that you can actually get all of those in the libraries, and study yourself. What is the minimum experience for a general contractor B2? Again, we described all of that in our, I'm just going to go quickly over it. Looks like there is a few questions on that one. B2 license holder must engage in 3 or more trades or crafts on a project. They're also limited to working on existing residential wood structures. They cannot make any structural alterations to load-bearing partitions and walls. They cannot install or extend electrical or plumbing systems, and they cannot install or replace HVAC systems. How can I certificate the experience? You have to have someone who has observed you doing the work to complete that certification of work experience for you. If that person did not observe you the whole 4 years and last 10 years that we need, you need to have 2 or 3 of those work. For example, one person that knows you for 2 years, you worked on that from like 2018 to 20, and there was another person from 2013 to 15 who can certify you. So that's how you can certify the experience. If my father holds a C7 license and I want to apply for a C10, do I have to do it on my own, or can I do under his license? Well, if you want to add it, there are different options for that. You can do it under his, again, if he allows you to do that. If he's a sole owner license, you can only go there as an RME because sole owner is only 1%. So as an RME, then he would need to get you worker comp and all that. Now, as a corporation, LLC, you can go as an officer or a member. And if you have 20% of the business, then you wouldn't need like a qualifying bond and whatnot. So it all depends on your agreement with your father. But you can also go ahead and just apply for your own, and then maybe later on you want to join. That will be up to you. But that's a discussion between two, how much risk you will take on his license to put you on there and how much you want to go that route. So when submitting my application, I only send the money order of $200, right? Well, no. The application, like I said, on the $200 is the licensing fee. But on each application, on top of it, left-hand corner top, it tells you what's the application fee. So, and then the licensing fee, that's a different one that you can pay at the end. But originally, you have to pay what is the application fee. Sorry, I heard you say up to 2 years of education credit can be used for work experience, but look at website and it says up to 3 years can be credited against work experience. Is this correct, or has things changed? If so, do you know one combined education experience for more than one education? You see, for instance, master's in business degree answer. Okay. We say the most you can get is 36 months, and that's for like a degree in a construction management, like a bachelor or master's degree in construction management. That's the most you can get. Now, you mentioned that you have, like, for example, a business degree and a certificate in construction management degree from university. Again, we would look at those two. Each one that gives you the most, we give you that. We do not combine them. So we will look at those and we give you whichever gives you the most. No combine. Like self-employed, who can certificate your experience for B2? Self-employed, you probably work for some clients. They should be able to. You may need, a few certification of work experience because they only probably cover 3 months here, 2 months there. But they can do that as well. Or if you do anything that the inspector comes look at it, they can tell you that too. Can you provide some estimated bond and workers' comp costs for El Dorado County? Unfortunately, those are not in our hands. You better talk to your insurance broker about that one. We do not have those. If going for B2 residential remodeling, a person cannot apply for this classification as owner builder. In other words, the only method allowed as owner builder is better, no other classification. That is correct. Okay, that sums up our questions for today. That's it. Thank you for all your questions. If you have any other questions about your application, we encourage you to drop an email to our licensing division. Here is that email address, licensing@cslb.ca.gov. If at some point you need to reschedule your exam, you can get that process started by dropping an email to exams@cslb.ca.gov. We have also put together a list of available resources for women considering a career in construction. If you haven't already, be sure to download this presentation to get them. You can download the presentation on a green banner on the top of our homepage, www.cslb.ca.gov. If you are watching the archive video of this workshop on your YouTube page, you will find a link to the presentation down below. We welcome your comments or topics for future webcasts. Just drop us an email to social@cslb.ca.gov. A special thanks to our licensing division and public affairs office for their help on this workshop. The Get Licensed to Build workshop is a copyrighted production of the California Contractors State License Board. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.